Alice Daybreak on Arise News, and it's time for the press preview. First look at the papers. We'll start with this day, Nkechi. I'll leave you to start with that.
All right, great. Let's take a look at this day, our sister publication. Its leading story this morning: I have not resigned, and I won't resign. He says he's elected for a 4-year term. Presidential hopeful says his mission in politics is to serve people. Meanwhile, PDP alleges 20 local government areas in Katsina not secure for election. The leading photo here on the front of this day showing the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. Why I want to serve you. This was at the Ribadu Square in Yola, Adamawa State yesterday. And just above that, federal government raises fresh fraud claims against PNID ahead of $11 billion trial. Rising food commodity prices drive inflation to 19.64%. More of that on page 6. And above the nameplate of this day this morning, Ruto wins Kenya's election. President Buhari salutes the president-elect. Read more on that on page 10.
Okay, let's take a look at the Punch. It's leading with 19.6% inflation rate. Federal government warned against acute hunger and Sierra Leone crisis. Power intervention fund jumps to 2.9 trillion naira. Federal government has to meet today as the strike enters 183 days. And Moteku trains on the recruits, vows to tackle criminals.
Let's look at the Nation. Yeah. Are you too wicked as the chairman of PDP? Others: I have no plan to quit PDP chair now. I was elected for 4 years. Absence of Atiku's men stalled space sparely. And just below that, by the side of the picture, federal government not sincere about ending strike. This is coming from ASU. Union meets education minister, others today. And then NCDC confirms 15 monkeypox cases. Electricity workers set to battle TCN.
The Nigerian Tribune this morning's leading story: PDP crisis. I have not resigned. I have a 4-year mandate. That's coming from the chairman, IU. And more headlines here: William Ruto defeats Raila Odinga, wins Kenya's presidential election. Electricity workers set for strike tomorrow. If you want to know why, that's on page 25. And above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, inflation rate rises to 19.64%, highest in 17 years.
The international papers now. Daily Express: radical Truss vows to reform crisis Britain.
And let's take a look at the Financial Times. 1 year on, Taliban trade on open roads. And just below that, China cuts lending rate as retail sales and factory outputs decline. Meanwhile, lenders 50-year fixed rate mortgages to help home buyers cope with inflation. And for the press preview, we have Emmanuel Bello, who joins us from our offsite studio this morning. Emmanuel, good morning. Thanks for coming in. Let's take a look at this day and its leading story. Still on the PDP crisis, IU is speaking back. He says, I have not resigned and I will not resign. He says he has a 4-year mandate and he wants to see that through. And also on the weekend crisis between himself and the presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, who you can see his photo there, speaking in Yola yesterday, talking about why he wants to serve Nigeria. Attending that rally in Yola means Atiku's negotiators missed a negotiating meeting with Wike's negotiators, which have now made them mad. Apparently, it was rescheduled to Friday, but they say they were not informed. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, good morning, Nkechi. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think yesterday we led the paper led strongly with the story of Wike. It was a Wike story where he said, "Look, IU resignation is the only thing that will pacify him." Remember that Wike is so angry, and in every forum he can find himself, he talks about marginalization. He talks about the fact that the South cannot play second fiddle. He points to IU as a misnomer that, look, you can't have the presidential candidate and IU from the same zone. That looks like a marginalization of the South. So for him, IU and IU and Atiku on the same page. It's something that puts the rest of the South in a second position or in a bad place, and it concentrates everything in the North. We can say you can't have any of that, and the only way you can pacify him, you can make him happy, you can make him accept to join the presidential council or to actually support Atiku is for IU to resign. But those who are supporting IU say that, or rather IU himself is saying that, look, I cannot resign, I've been elected for a 4-year mandate, and it will take an act of Congress. It's not just about resignation. I think there's a provision for his resignation, but he's saying a lot of people watching that say that, look, it's not going to be that easy. And that even those provisions that Wike was talking about is not for candidates, but for those who are already president. For instance, if Atiku emerges president, yes, then the national chairman of the party can come from the South. That is the argument on the IU side. But now you are seeing IU himself fighting back vigorously. In the past, it was the party that was defending him. But in this story today, in this day, IU himself is speaking and saying, look, no, I will not leave. I will not stay. And then yesterday, they had a strong showing. Atiku had a very wonderful 24 hours yesterday. The reception in Yola was huge. And that, of course, has emboldened that side. And to actually look at Wike in the eyes now, in the face, to say, look, IU is staying, IU is not going. I think that those numbers yesterday in Yola probably, bolstered up the confidences of the Atiku camp. And okay, we just have to wait now to see what Wike is talking. But Wike too has been talking. As at yesterday, he said that, look, he's beginning to be, you see a situation, a shift in Wike's behavior, because at the Odili event yesterday, former Governor Peter Odili, who is celebrating his birthday, he was already sounding a bit mollified and a bit mournful. He's saying things like, well, there's a gang up against him. He's pointed to Odili as one example he likes to copy, that Odili too has been betrayed in the past. So he's now presenting a persecution kind of, there's a persecution mania here. Somebody who feels he's been persecuted, he's been betrayed. He spoke so mournful, so sadly about his ordeal, about the fates of his political future, and the fact that a grief candidate, even within his party in the state, are now working against him. So he's not just fighting Abuja. Wike finds himself where he's actually have to contend with political forces even within Rivers.
Well, Emmanuel, let's look at other stories. Nigeria's headline inflation rate for July has risen to 19.64%. And again, food inflation increased to a 14-month high. There's no letter for citizens and how much they're spending on food, is there?
No, Kenneth, and I think that's the story that should worry everyone. I'm so glad that the Punch led with it. It's in almost all the other newspapers, because it's a very, very serious story. It's the one that concerns you and I, the prices of food stuff in the market and what is happening. Though MBS, a government establishment, this is not coming from opposition, this is not coming from people from the outside, this is not coming from a pressure group, this is coming from government itself, saying that in 17 years, foodstuff prices have gone on an all-time high. And you see the statistics, there are a lot of numbers being thrown out. You even see how this is faring around the states and how this has jumped around the months. The foodstuff all over the country going very hard. Even things that in the past people take for granted, like Gary and vegetable. If you're a lover of Eba, like my friend Indy, this is serious. This is
Who told you that?
this is worrying. But guys, it's serious. It's very, very serious, and everything's gone up. And a 70-year all high, it's almost like a year itself. It's 19.64. You can't even forget it. It's like 1964. That is for those who are concerned about numbers and statistics. So, but behind those statistics, behind those numbers are the real, the real human angle story to it. You and I, our experiences day to day. You go to the market with your sum and you get nothing but some paltry items to buy. And it's at the center of it with one paper, I think the Punch, predicting that we might be heading the way of Sierra Leone or even Zimbabwe. With the Punch saying that almost painting a much more different picture from what the other paper are saying that we're heading the way of Zimbabwe. All of us know what happened in Zimbabwe one time, and then Sierra Leone just recently they had to actually go on a serious protest because people couldn't afford to do this. So what's going to give here? I don't know. Some people are predicting a bumper harvest. Some are saying that due to the activities of herdsmen, a lot of people have run away from the farms, and that again is part of the problem. So if you don't have those good harvests, if you don't have people farming the way it should be, and it's sad because this is an agrarian country. This is a country that should be able to feed itself. But now foodstuff and the prices are going 19.64. It's never been this bad in the history of the country. And we are heading into a presidential election. I can assure you, Kenneth, that opposition will jump on this because it's red meat for the opposition to use as a campaign issue. But beyond campaign issues, beyond this statistic, it's the grim reality of what Nigerians are going through day by day.
All right, the Nation newspaper. This is interesting. Commercial activities speak up in Southeast. Of course, you know that on Mondays and Fridays, they prescribe IPOBs as nothing happens. This is quite interesting in the Southeast.
Yes, it is, and you begin to wonder. You know that we've always lamented, even here, we've always said, how can the people who depend on trading, who depend on commercial activities, who depend on that's like their life support, who don't actually depend so much on government, because the Igbos, don't really, or the Southeasterners, don't really want to depend so much on what government. They are very self-sustaining, and trading is at the heart of their commercial life. You begin to wonder why they would choose to take days off from that very central activity. So this is an interesting story, Indy, like you say. What's happening? Why has trading activities picked up? Because these are people who, after everything is said, are all over the world known as traders, and they are the heart of the trading routes, trading activities across the country. So I think it's a good development, even as we wonder what is responsible for this upswing in trading activities.
Well, Emmanuel, President Buhari has hailed the Kenyan presidential-elect William Ruto, who beat Odinga. The announcement, it was made yesterday. What are some of your takeouts from that election? We've been following it since campaign, since the election began, since the ballots opened, closed. That counting took almost a week before that announcement was made. What were some of your takeouts from that election?
Well, I think it's once again another reminder that African democracy is peaking, and that we're trying to get it right. We're trying to play by the rules. Of course, it's not the best of elections, or the best examples of elections, but it's heartwarming to see transitions happening on the continent, and wherever it happens, it's actually a thing of joy. And to hear that speech from Ruto, the winner, who was magnanimous in victory, and saying that, look, he wants to run a government that carries everyone along. Well, that is something. And so it's a beautiful example of what is happening elsewhere. And the president is weighing on that and saying that, look, it was a good one. He has a transition on his hand to President Buhari. He has a transition on his hand too, and a lot of observers will be watching how he actually prosecutes his own transition. Those beautiful things he said about the Kenya election, how it is how it's a beautiful piece of democracy on display, is what is expected of him. And all eyes also will be on Nigeria. Right now, it's where almost all observers, both the local and international observers, are focused on also one big transition that is coming on the continent, and that is the Nigerian transition in 2023. It's an interesting election coming up, and to hear Buhari saying that is also sort of reassure us that he understands the need for free and fair elections, for transparency in votes, and for less violence in elections. We saw all of that playing out in the Kenya election, which is another beautiful piece of how a democracy should fare. Of course, there are complaints here and there about certain things, but by and large, you can give the Kenya election some kind of pass mark, and then all eyes now on Ruto to see how he's able to be magnanimous in victory and to rally everyone together and run a country that carries everyone along, as he said yesterday.
Well, Emmanuel, here in Nigeria, this is in front of the Tribune. Electricity workers set for strike tomorrow. Of course, power hasn't been the best since the year started. What should we be looking forward to?
Kenneth, someone yesterday joked that he thought that electricity workers are already on strike in the last 7 years, because I mean I don't know what difference a strike will make at this point, because I mean already darkness. You're hearing about those collapse. I think this year alone you've had those. I don't remember the numbers again. If you remind me, but the grid collapse happened. So people are forced to live with darkness, and the forces of darkness seem to be winning here and there. So to talk about another strike action by the electricity workers is just going to be, just deepens the crisis and the almost intractable issue about electricity. And I can assure you, Kenneth, that subsequent government has thrown everything into it. They've thrown money into it. They've changed the name of the corporation, of the entity. But it keeps embarrassing us day and night. Nigeria being one of the lowest countries, even around the world, even on the continent here in Africa. You have countries like Ghana, Cameroon, countries just around us, or even Kenya, with better electricity profile. We're only better than countries like maybe Ethiopia or Eritrea also, if you look at the statistics. So it's sad. And to have electricity workers again in the 21st century, when a whole lot of people are actually depending on every other form of power generation, wind, solar and others, to be hearing this, especially during a presidential election, is quite a serious takeaway from the profile also of the records, or rather the legacy of a government that, remember that this president started by asking that where is the power, and 7 years later, I think we can also ask him, look back and say, Mr. President, where is the power?
All right, just in 45 seconds or thereabout, two stories, health and education in nation. NCDC confirms 15 monkeypox cases, and then federal government not sincere about ending strike, says ASU. Union meets education minister later today. Emmanuel.
Well, the ASU bit is sad because and you have all these politicians running around trying to run for elections and not thinking about the next generation. It's sad that they are campaigning all over the world, having those huge rallies, and yet no one is addressing the number one thing that matters: the fact that kids are at home and that their future is in jeopardy. So who do you really want to rule over if you don't have students back in school? So it's sad that we're not getting any clear messages around the ASU crisis. And for the health issue, I think it's time to be proactive and to take things seriously before they go out of hand.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello. That's the press review.